The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with Future Tech Podcast. My guest today is Richard Bush, Chief Technology and Product Officer at NYIAX, NYIAX. Rich, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Yeah, so before we get into what NYIAX does, just give me a sketch of your background. How did you start working with them, and what have you done in your career?
Well, yeah, so I've been in kind of early stages of my career. I was in some forms of banking at Citibank. We did some risk administration projects, and I've moved rapidly after that into publishing on the web. So I was originally designer and coder for some early content management system projects back in the UK for Reed's Business Information, and quickly got into advertising and kind of analytics technology as part of that, and I ended up going to an ad serving technology company where I moved that company from Europe to US about 10 years ago now. And then I since then was acquired by AOL, where I did product and tech, and my last job, which was significant, was the time I spent with IPONWeb, who built a lot of the early RTB real-time bidding infrastructure, and where I ran the publisher division. And then I moved here a year ago, so I've been with NYIAX for a year now.
Okay.
It's been a whirlwind. It's an exciting project to be involved in. I'm happy to be sharing some of it with you today.
Right on. All right, so tell me about NYIAX. What do you guys do?
So we're a forward marketplace for guaranteed media contracts. We've partnered with Nasdaq, so we have formed a relationship with them back in 2016. And what we've done is we've taken their marketplace technology, which is called Nasdaq Financial Framework, and we've made some adaptations under our design to make it addressable for the advertising market, as well as for others markets, but we're focused on advertising first. And so the contracts exchange is really solving a problem of trading the contract entity. There's been a lot of trading activity in the real-time space, but it's been slow to get the kind of forward or the kind of upfront guaranteed style transactions that still happen in the market onto a marketplace. So we're focused on solving that problem. It's a little bit of automation, it's a little bit of exchange technology, and it's all of that. We had the advantage of Nasdaq as being a partner for us there, and that's it's been the fun. It's been so I've been with them for a year now, so it's been we're come through the process where we're launched the first version out, and we're kind of onboarding people now. So
yeah, I'm sorry, I don't understand the product. So trading of what? Stocks, equities, bonds, futures, that kind of thing on Nasdaq, or what?
So we're trading. So what we're doing is we're taking the kind of IO contracts that exist in a upfront market in advertising, right? So the deals that are typically done between a buyer, which is an agency or an advertiser, and a seller, which is a publisher. But we're taking those contracts and we're bringing them onto a marketplace. So it's not what we're using while we're using the underlying tech at Nasdaq, but we're not in the financial market, right? We're in the advertising market, and we're trading media essentially. And so hopefully that's a little bit clearer. The critical things that we're solving for in that part of the market is that today there's been there's been a lot of focus on this kind of moment in time when a consumer is browsing the web, right? And that the kind of trading existence that's happened in the last, say, 10 years, 7 to 10 years, has all been focused on that moment when you're browsing the web. What hasn't really transpired is that still a lot of media is still traded in advance, so there's still a lot of bulk buying that goes on. There's still a lot of upfronts that go on, especially in like the likes of.
Right. So for example, if I want to have banners on, a banner on the New York Times, right now I'd have to buy it for like the whole month ahead. Let's say I can't just say in real time, hey, based on the pricing, I want to buy a banner for the next few hours, and that's it.
I mean, you can in the RTB space, right? But what's happened there is that the lower value impressions have yet to transition to that model. The higher value impressions get to transition to that model. So that's the trading across in the financial market, it would be called what the future or forward market, right? Because you're buying in advance, right? You're committing to somebody money in advance for payment for something that happens in the future. And with RTB, as part of the ecosystem in the financial market is what would be called a spot market, right? Where you're essentially at that moment in time, you're immediately trading, and that's the difference, if you like, between the current trading environment that exists in RTB and the one that we're bringing forward.
Okay, can you clarify a little bit more? So how is high value advertising bought now? What is high value advertising? The placement of a banner, or what other radio spot, and how does it happen now, and how is it going to happen differently under your system?
So how it happens now is very much through a manual process, which is just using telephones, personal contacts, using Excel and using pieces of paper, right? So the part of the market where this type of activity happens is particularly prevalent in TV. It's particularly prevalent in kind of likes of out of home, where both those markets are relatively high value. So what actually happens is the holding company or an advertiser or an agency inside a holding company will spend time forming a relationship, and they will do a deal in advance, maybe at the end of the year for the following year, or maybe before Q1 for Q1, right? And they'll contract together and say, we're going to spend X amount of dollars with you on this targeting set for this amount of time, right? And that part is still very manual, right? So what we're addressing is a system that enables those deals to be represented inside a marketplace, right? And that's really the participants on the exchange are agencies who are spending their advertisers' budgets, and publishers who are essentially receiving they're delivering the advertising on their media. So that's the kind of ecosystem that we're playing in, and where we're providing value. And there's efficiency play there, right? So there's a lot of people pushing paper backwards and forwards either via email, or even in some cases still via fax, right? So having a place to place your buy and sell orders, if you like, your intentions to buy or sell, so that it can be discoverable, and having a place to ultimately make those trades happen, and then downstream actually track what has been delivered, and therefore how much you should be paying, or how much you need to be made good, is really that's the area that we provide a lot of value for our customers.
So how is this going to change? Besides the obvious, that it looks like it'll provide more liquidity. It looks like it'll provide price discovery. Maybe it'll narrow spreads and give better pricing on advertising. I don't know. But what do you think this is going to do to this market in particular?
Well, I think so. The overarching goal from NYIAX's perspective is that in order to grow the overall advertising ecosystem, there needs to be a level of financial rigor which is established across the full supply chain, right? Across the full chain, right? We today there's a lot of activity and a lot of rigor that's been put in place, like a lot of tracking and measurement and various other downstream, rigor that's been put in place inside RTB. But in order for the market to see its full potential, we believe that there's two things need to happen. One is that the financial rigor level needs to be raised, right? There needs to be, accountability and transparency into the transactions that happen inside this market for both the buyers and the sellers to have, their confidence to transact and to grow. So that's one thing. And what comes from that, which I think is where we see the market heading now, as we've grown up over the last 20 years of activity in advertising. What we see is that in order for capital to come into a market like this, right, and just liquidity and investment into a market additional to just the primaries, you need to have that financial rigor. But once that financial rigor is there really is an opportunity to start to think about a more financially driven approach to this market, right? And what we see, kind of 2-year, 3-year vision, and we're already enabling this today, is that parties who want to bring capital into the market can do so with this kind of structure. So an example might be that a publisher. It's very much what happens in the upfronts process today in TV, right? A publisher is producing a show, right? And they want to make sure that they're going to get funding for this show, so they can go on and do a really good job of high quality content, right? And they don't always want to make the bet to do that by themselves before they've got some kind of commitment from the advertiser side. So what we can do is enable capital to come into this market from other sources, maybe typical investment capital coming in, and with those financially rigorous processes that we bring to the table, that's possible. And actually, we're enabling that today through partnerships with So that's, I think, where we're headed. And I haven't talked much about this, but a lot of this is, like a natural evolution for markets, right? I mean, there's always an entry point for trading and automation. And we've seen very much programmatic. Yeah, programmatic has taken it to a point, but there's still a large portion of the media dollars that are still done outside off market. So that's what we're focused on.
So what happens now if an advertiser commits, 6 months to some kind of marketing campaign? They want to change. They don't like it anymore. Can they resell the remainder of a marketing campaign on this market? Will it help them do that?
Yeah. So that's a part of the core capability that Nasdaq brought us was this capability to resell. Now, while we're able to do that technically, we actually start the market today with just primary buyers and sellers, right? So the retrading is a new concept. We see that it's got interest, and the first rules that we've put around that are that the publisher obviously defines who the kind of parameters of which it's willing to sell its media, right? And that is included in whether they want to resell as a first question, right? Do you want to or not, right? So they can, they might want to know their counterparty directly, and they might want to have complete control over who that counterparty is. So but if they do make a decision to retrade, then they have a set of, if you like, blocks. Block whitelists. Think of them as whitelists or blacklists of various things, like which advertisers, which context, which audience types. So in case of any competitive separation problems that they have with their selling in a different channel. So retrading, yes, is something we see as being central to this in the longer term vision. And I think as we grow the kind of primary market in the next 2 quarters, I think we'll start to see the interest and start to see adoption of that in a more steady format, and that would be our focus towards the end of Q1 and end of Q2 start time frame.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is where are you guys at with the platform, and what's the rollout going to be over the next 6 months or a year?
Yeah, I mean we're at the stage now where we put our 1.0 version into a production real money environment. So we have kind of 2 systems, if you like. One is the underlying exchange, which is produced and provided under our design by Nasdaq. That was given to us in kind of middle of this year, and we've been developing parallel on top of that. And so the combination of those 2 things, in the cloud, which was a first for Nasdaq, and on the blockchain, which is a first for Nasdaq as well. And we're excited to be kind of early in those 2 innovations for them. We beyond today, so we went October was the time we put the 1.0 version out. We're spending the first month to finalizing onboarding for the early participants. Right, and we had a pilot program which we had a lot of participation in, and that group are the first to be onboarded now. And as we'll start to see trading towards the end of this year, the beginning of next, and ultimately those campaigns, because it's a forward market, they will end up delivering obviously post trade, and that will happen in the beginning of next year. And so what we'll really see is the push for growth into matching orders and ultimately trading in Q1 of next year. Beyond the kind of 3-month horizon, what we're really starting to work on is, because it's a contract that we're trading, it's possible for us to describe media, different types of media, whether it be video or a video on demand or some out of home. So we're just in the process now of introducing the first kind of descriptors of the different media types around particularly around video on demand and particularly around out of home. So that's coming. I'm not in a position to say exactly when it will land, because it's actually very much dependent on our first customers, but that's a next focus for us. And really the real focus at the core of the business at this point is really just to get the first counterparties trading at ever increasing more volume, so we can really prove out.
What about the big dogs? Google, Facebook. They have their own fiefdom, and they control all that. The marketing that goes on their platforms. How are they going to react to this? Do they see it as competition? Will they actually put some of their stuff onto your marketplace to get rid of unused advertising?
Well, I think we had purposefully made a design of a system that we didn't see a need, right, in the industry for delivery, the current kind of pipes, if you like, around in the industry, where the RTB pipes or the ad servers or the verification services, all of these like well implemented and understood technologies, like they are partners for us, right? So our customers on the publisher side, particularly, we spend time understanding how they implement their inventory onto their ad server, so that we can integrate with it, right? And so in that sense, the big Google who run DoubleClick products, particularly on the publisher side, they're a partner for us, or they're certainly an integration point for us. So to come back to the kind of the media side, I think they're running their exchanges, and they have their capabilities around kind of RTB, and have other capabilities too. I think at this point, we're heavily focused on solving a different problem set that we see as one that we're uniquely positioned to focus on, right? So we're heavily focused on this forward contract concept, right? And so I whether or not they'll engage with that and put media on is I would say yet to be seen, because we're still working with our early publishers and early holding companies. So the thing I will point out is that we're a technology company. Right, so we're not actually running the media ourselves. Our customers are ultimately using our technology to run media and trade. So that might have impact on whether someone like a Facebook or Google will have impact on whether Facebook or Google would engage with us.
Yeah, I would think that they would. They probably have a lot of remnant base, no matter how good they are at selling stuff. So I think it'd be a great place for them to get rid of all that,
Well, the way that we look at that, right, is that because this is a forward market, right, and what do we mean by forward, right? It basically means that it's sold in advance, right? So it's providing an additional capability to the current market, in the sense that most of the remnant and most of the implementations around RTB that exist today are really that you've not sold it already. That's the reason why it ends up on these exchanges, right? These RTB exchanges. So we're very complementary to that ecosystem, in the sense that you can still use those products, right? You can still send an impression to an RTB exchange if it's not already been pre-sold. So there's a complementary nature to this, which I will definitely have an impact on whether someone like an NYIAX or the kind of the RTB or the current trading technologies that exist would work with us to put media on.
All right. Well, very good. So what's the best way for potential advertisers or buyers to contact you guys?
So that's That's a good question, actually. Well, we have a group, partner group on both the buy and sell side who are active in the market. We have sales at NYIAX.com. The website has a sign-up process, which is NYIAX.com. If you want to find out more, there's a bunch of different options about, whether you want to start engaging with us and to get a demo, or whether you're interested in just kind of some light information beyond what's available on our website. So those are a couple of good ways. I'm always a good contact point. I'm happy to introduce the right people inside the organizations. It's rbush at NYIAX.com. So those are all good ways to get in contact with us, whichever method you feel most appropriate.
Okay, very good. Well, Rich, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.